It was a hot afternoon in downtown Atlanta. The streets were busy and the sun was bright. People were walking quickly, looking for shade. Cars were stuck in traffic and the sound of horns filled the air. Officer Mike, a white police officer, in his early 30s, stood near his patrol car sipping cold coffee. He had been on duty for 6 hours already. He was tired, bored, and irritated. He wanted something to happen, something to break the silence of routine. Then he saw her. A black woman dressed in a clean black suit was standing near a shiny black Mercedes-Benz. The car looked expensive. Too expensive, Mike thought. She looked calm and confident, holding a file in one hand and a phone in the other. Her hair was tied neatly, and she wore simple, classy jewelry. Mike narrowed his eyes. "What is she doing here?" he muttered to himself. The woman glanced around, unaware of Mike watching her. A few people nearby were staring at her, too. Some whispered. One man even pointed toward her and said, "That doesn't look right." That was enough for Mike. He dropped his coffee cup, adjusted his belt, and walked quickly toward her. "Excuse me, ma'am," he said in a loud, sharp voice. She turned slowly, looked him in the eyes, and smiled politely. "Yes, officer?" "Can I see your ID?" Mike demanded. "Is there a problem, officer?" she asked, keeping her voice calm. Mike didn't like her tone. It wasn't rude, but it wasn't scared either. She wasn't acting like someone guilty. She wasn't nervous. That made him even more suspicious. "Just show me your ID," he repeated, louder this time. "May I ask why?" "You're standing near a car that doesn't belong to you." She raised one eyebrow. "How do you know that?" Mike stepped closer. "Because I know this area. This car doesn't belong here. You're not the owner." "I see." She nodded slowly. "But, officer, I am the owner." Mike didn't believe her. He reached for her arm. "Turn around. You're being detained for questioning." "I don't think that's necessary." "I'm not asking." Within seconds, he grabbed her arm and twisted it behind her back. People around them started filming on their phones. A woman shouted, "Hey, she didn't do anything." A man said, "Leave her alone." But Mike ignored them. "You have the right to remain silent," he said as he pulled out the handcuffs. The woman didn't fight. She stayed calm, though her eyes looked disappointed. Not scared, not angry, just tired. Mike pushed her into the police car and drove her to the station. His hands were shaking a little, but he felt like he did the right thing. But something didn't feel right. She hadn't resisted. She hadn't begged or cried. And she definitely wasn't scared. At the station, Officer Mike walked her inside. Other officers looked surprised. "What's going on?" one of them asked. "Suspicious behavior. No ID. Possible car theft," Mike said confidently. The woman looked around, then finally spoke. "Call your chief. He knows me." Mike let out a short laugh. "Yeah? And who exactly are you?" She turned to him and said calmly, "I'm the judge." The room went silent. "What?" she repeated. "I'm Judge Angela Morris, and I have every right to stand next to my own car." One of the other officers rushed to check the name in the system. In less than a minute, he looked up with wide eyes. "She's telling the truth," he whispered. "She's a superior court judge." Mike felt his face go pale. Judge Angela Morris had served in Atlanta for over 10 years. She was known for her fairness, wisdom, and courage. She had made national headlines when she helped free a wrongly convicted teenager and spoke against police brutality in public interviews. Mike suddenly remembered something, a photo he had seen in the newspaper months ago. A judge shaking. Hands with the mayor. This was her. This was the woman he just handcuffed without asking a single real question. The chief arrived moments later. His face turned red with anger. "What the hell happened here?" he shouted. Angela looked at the chief, calm as ever. "Your officer arrested me. No ID check. No real reason. Just assumptions." Mike tried to speak. She looked suspicious. "You thought what?" the chief barked. That a well-dressed black woman can't drive a nice car? Mike looked down. Angela continued. This isn't about me. I'll be fine. But how many others like me are arrested every day without reason? The room was quiet. Angela turned to Mike. You judged me before knowing me. That's not justice. That's fear. Mike didn't have an answer. Later that evening, the video of the arrest went viral. People were angry. Some were crying. Others were furious. Social media exploded. Judge Angela, arrested for being black, justice, or just power. The world now knew what happened. But what would happen next? Would Judge Angela forgive Officer Mike? Would Mike learn anything? Or was this just the beginning of something bigger? The video of Judge Angela's arrest was everywhere. People were angry. People were shocked. But Officer Mike? He was confused and scared. He sat in a quiet room at the police station, staring at the wall. He had made a mistake, a big one. And now the whole world knew. His phone buzzed nonstop. Messages, missed calls, news alerts. But he didn't touch it. He was thinking about her, the woman he had arrested, the woman who didn't fight, the woman who stayed calm, the woman who said just one sentence that changed everything. I'm the judge. In another room, Judge Angela sat with the chief of police. She looked tired but calm. Her voice was steady. I don't want special treatment, she said, but I do want accountability. The chief nodded. He didn't know who you were. Angela raised her eyebrow. That's not the point. He shouldn't treat anyone like that, on judge or no judge. The chief sighed. You're right. We'll review the body cam footage. There will be an internal investigation. Angela stood up. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here for justice. Then she walked out without another word. Flashback. 20 years ago, a little black girl named Angela stood outside a courtroom holding her mother's hand. Her father had just been arrested, wrongly accused of theft. Angela didn't understand everything, but she remembered one thing clearly: the police didn't listen to her father. They didn't look at the evidence. They just took him away. She remembered her mother crying all night. She remembered vowing one thing. One day, I'll become the person they can't ignore. Back in the present, Mike was asked to come into a meeting room. Judge Angela was there. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Mike finally spoke. I didn't know who you were. If I had... Angela cut him off. But what if I was just a teacher, or a nurse, or a mother picking up her child? Mike looked down. He had no answer. Angela continued. Why did you assume I was a criminal? You were just standing there. Near a fancy car, I thought... He stopped. His own words sounded weak now. Angela sighed. I became a judge so people like my father could be heard, so innocent people didn't suffer. But today, I became just another black person to you. Her words were like a punch to Mike's heart. He whispered, I'm sorry. Angela didn't smile. Being sorry is not enough. Change must happen. In you. In the system. Then she stood up and walked away. Outside, reporters waited. Judge Angela, will you press charges? Was this racism? Will Officer Mike be fired? She stopped for a moment. This isn't just about me, she said. It's about every person who is judged before being understood. Then she got into her car, the same car Mike thought she had stolen, and drove off. Back at the police station, the chief told Mike he was being suspended during the investigation. Mike didn't argue. He just nodded and left the room. He walked to his car, sat in silence, and closed his eyes for the first time in a long time. He began to think, not like a cop, not like a man defending himself, but like a human being who finally saw the truth. Later that night, Mike sat alone at his apartment watching the news. The screen showed old videos of Judge Angela, helping a wrongly jailed boy return to school, speaking at a rally about justice and equality. smiling in court after giving a fair verdict. She wasn't just a judge. She was a symbol of what was right in the world. And he had handcuffed her in public, like she was a thief. The next morning, something strange happened. A letter arrived at Mike's door. There was no name, no return address. He opened it. Inside was just one sentence, handwritten. Do you want to be the man who arrests justice or protects it? Mike sat back in his chair. He didn't know who sent it. Maybe it was from her. Maybe it was from someone who saw the video. But one thing was clear. This story wasn't over. Not yet. The city was still talking. News channels, social media, radio shows. Everyone had one question. How could a police officer arrest a judge without asking a single question? But deep inside this storm, two people were silent. Judge Angela, Officer Mike, both were thinking about the past. At Judge Angela's home, Angela sat by her window holding an old photo in her hand. It was her family picture, her father, her mother, and a little girl with 2 braids, herself. She looked at her father's face and whispered, "You were right, Papa. They still don't see us." Flashback. 25 years ago. Angela was only 10 years old when it happened. Her father owned a small grocery store. One night, the police came. Someone had robbed a store down the street. The thief was a tall black man. That was enough. They barged into her father's store, pushed him against the wall, and arrested him, in front of her and her crying mother. No one asked questions. No one listened. They just took him. Angela never forgot that night. She remembered standing in court, watching her father in handcuffs. She remembered the way the judge looked bored. Like her father didn't matter. From that day, she made a promise. I will become a judge. I will make sure people like my father are heard. And she did. She studied hard. She worked day and night. She graduated top of her class. She passed the bar. And then, she became one of the youngest black women judges in the state. But none of that stopped Officer Mike from arresting her. In that moment, her degree, her title, her achievements meant nothing. She was just another black woman near a nice car. Meanwhile, at Mike's apartment, Mike sat on his couch flipping through old photo albums. He found a picture of his cousin, Joey, a skinny teenager with sad eyes. Joey was arrested 3 years ago. The police thought he was part of a gang. He wasn't. He was just at the wrong place, at the wrong time. The case almost destroyed his life. Mike had tried everything, but nothing worked. Then one day, a new judge took the case. A woman, a black woman, Judge Angela Morris. She saw the truth. She listened. She asked real questions. And she cleared Joey's name. Mike had forgotten that until now. He stared at the picture. I owe her, he whispered. I should have remembered her face. But deep down, he knew the truth. Even if he had remembered, he would have still judged her that day. Not because of who she was, but because of what he assumed. And that was the real mistake. Back at the courthouse, Angela walked into her courtroom the next morning. People stood when she entered, as they always did, but something was different. There was respect in their eyes, but also sadness. They had seen the video, too. Angela sat at her bench and looked at the people in front of her. A young man was being charged with shoplifting. He looked scared. Angela leaned forward. Tell me what happened. He explained. He was hungry. He had no job. He stole food. Angela paused, then said, That doesn't make it right, but it makes it human. She gave him community service and offered to connect him with a job training program. The courtroom was silent. People knew. Judge Angela hadn't changed. even after being arrested unfairly. She still chose fairness. Mike's visit. Later that day, Mike stood outside her office. He had been standing there for 20 minutes. Finally, the door opened. Angela saw him and nodded. "Come in," she said softly. Mike sat across from her. His voice was low. "I remembered something last night," he said. "You helped my cousin, Joey." Angela blinked. "I remember Joey. He was a good kid." Mike nodded. "You gave him his life back, and I took your dignity on the street like it was nothing." There was silence. Then Mike said something unexpected. "I want to learn. I don't want to be that kind of officer anymore." Angela looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, "You need to unlearn, too. Unlearn fear. Unlearn power. Unlearn silence." Mike listened. "And then?" he asked. Angela stood up. "Then maybe you'll understand justice." That night, Angela wrote in her journal, "Sometimes people don't need punishment. They need awakening. I don't know if he will change, but I saw honesty in his eyes, and that's a start." Outside, the city lights glowed. The world was still angry, but in two hearts, something had started to shift. Not forgiveness, not yet, but maybe the first step towards something better. The video didn't stop spreading. Everywhere, people watched the same 20-second clip: a calm, confident black woman, an angry white officer, handcuffs, no questions. And then the words that changed everything. "I'm the judge." People didn't just watch it, they felt it. They saw their own pain in it, their own stories, their own fear, protests. Begin in less than 2 days, the streets of Atlanta filled with people, men, women, children, all carrying signs, "Justice for Judge Angela." "We are not threats. Enough is enough." Some cried. Some shouted. Some stood in silence. But all of them had one message. This is not just one mistake. This happens every day. Angela watches. From home, Angela stood by her window again, watching the news. Crowds, banners, marches, people chanting her name, but her heart felt heavy. She whispered, "This isn't about me. It's about all of us." She picked up a photo of her law school graduation. So many dreams, so much hope, but the world still judged her by her skin. Mike watches, too, officer. Mike sat alone in his apartment, watching the same coverage. He saw a woman holding a sign. "I was arrested, too, for sitting in my own car." He saw a teenage boy crying in an interview. "I was only 14 when they threw me to the ground." Mike felt something he hadn't felt before. Not just guilt, but shame. He remembered the training he got as a rookie. Stay alert. Watch for threats. Don't let your guard down. But no one taught him how to see people as people. No one told him his fear could become violence. No one warned him that power without understanding is dangerous. Police Department. Under fire, reporters surrounded the police station. "What is being done about Officer Mike? Has racism been addressed in training? How many other wrongful arrests have happened?" The chief looked tired on camera. "We are reviewing the situation. Officer Mike is suspended. Changes are being made." But the public wasn't satisfied. They wanted real answers. They wanted justice, not just statements. Angela receives a letter one evening. Angela received a handwritten letter at her office. It said, "Dear Judge Morris, I'm a black mother. Last year, my son was arrested for walking home in a hoodie. He's only 12. He still wakes up from nightmares. Thank you for standing strong. You give us hope." Angela's hands shook as she folded the letter. She closed her eyes. "This is bigger than me," she whispered. "This is a fight for all the people they don't see." A painful memory returns. That night, Angela had a dream. She was a little girl again. She was in court watching her father cry in silence. The judge didn't look at him. The lawyers didn't believe him. The police said he fits the description. No one asked questions. Angela woke up with tears in her eyes. "It's still happening," she said. I became a judge to stop this, but it's still happening. The community speaks. The next day, a town hall was held. Hundreds came. Some were angry. Some were broken. Some had stories to tell. An old man stood up. I was arrested in 1975 for walking home from work. They said I looked out of place. I still carry that pain. A young woman said, "My brother was beaten by police. He never came back the same." Angela listened. So did Mike, quietly sitting in the back, wearing plain clothes, trying not to be seen. But he was there, and for the first time, he wasn't there as a cop. He was there as a student. Angela takes the mic. Angela finally stood up to speak. The room fell silent. Her voice was soft, but strong. I didn't come here today as a judge. I came here as a daughter, as a woman, as someone who has lived the pain many of you carry. What happened to me was wrong. But what happens to people every day, with no camera, no crowd, no title, that is worse. People nodded. Some wept. Angela continued. This is not about one bad officer. This is about a broken system. We must fix it, together. The room erupted in applause. Mike walks away from the crowd. Mike walked out before it ended. He couldn't face her yet. Not again. But in his heart, something had shifted. He wasn't just sorry anymore. He was ready to change. Back in her car, Angela looked up at the sky. This storm had to come, she said, because without the storm, no one wakes up. The camera fades on her face. Strong, tired, brave, and still fighting. The world didn't forget. Every day people watched the video again. Every day new articles were written. Every day Officer Mike's name was trending, but not in a good way. He had become the face of something ugly, racial injustice, suspended. And alone Mike was no longer in uniform. He was no longer on the streets. He was no longer called Officer Mike. He was just Mike. He sat in his small apartment, watching the same video on repeat. He watched himself grab Judge Angela's arm. He watched her calm face. He watched his own anger. Each time, it hurt more. Phone calls stopped coming. His friends stopped calling. Even some of his fellow officers said nothing. One message said, "You embarrassed all of us." Another one said, "You made us look like monsters." Mike felt like a ghost in his own world. He tried to call his cousin Joey, the boy judge. Angela had once helped. Joey answered, but didn't say much. "You helped her once," Mike said. "She helped you." "But I hurt her." Joey was quiet for a moment, then said, "I still respect you, but you need to fix yourself first." The line went dead. Online hate grows people found Mike's social media. They commented, "Racist pig," "Power without brains," "You should never wear a badge again." Mike turned off his phone. He couldn't handle it, but deep inside, he knew they were right. Flashback. Why Mike became a cop. Many years ago, Mike stood in front of his police academy instructor. "Why do you want to be a cop?" the man asked. Mike had answered proudly, "To protect people, to make things better." But somewhere along the way, he forgot that. He became hard. He stopped asking questions. He started judging people by looks. That's how the mistake happened. One visit that changed him. One evening, Mike walked to a community center. He had seen a flyer. Talk Circle, stories from those who were hurt. He walked in and sat in the back. He didn't speak. He just listened. A teenage girl spoke. "I was 11 when they put me in handcuffs at school." An old man shared, "I spent 3 years in jail for something I didn't do." A mother said, "My son doesn't trust police anymore. He hides when he sees them." Mike's heart broke again and again. He realized these were the people he promised to protect, and he failed them. Facing the mirror at home, Mike looked in the mirror. For the first time in his life, He didn't recognize himself. "I wanted to do good," he whispered, "but my fear made me blind." He walked to the closet and pulled out his uniform. He held it in his hands. "Do I deserve this anymore?" Letter to the department. The next day, Mike wrote a letter to the police department. "I need time away, not just from the job, but from who I became in the job. I want to learn. I want to unlearn. I don't know if I deserve to come back, but I know I can't go forward unless I face the truth." He signed the letter and left it on the chief's desk. Judge Angela Hears, the news Angela, was in her chambers when her assistant walked in. "You might want to see this," she said. It was a copy of Mike's letter. Someone had leaked it online. Angela read the letter slowly. She didn't smile. She didn't cry. She just said softly, "Maybe." He's starting to understand. In the community, people started noticing something different. Mike was seen volunteering at local shelters, picking up trash, helping at youth centers. He didn't wear his uniform. He didn't talk about the past. He just helped, quietly. But the road ahead was still long. People didn't trust him yet. Some never would. But this wasn't about image anymore. This was about truth, about repair, about becoming better, not to impress others, but to forgive yourself. In her journal, Angela wrote, "Sometimes a downfall is the only way people wake up. Let the fall be hard, but let the rising be honest." The city was still healing. The system was still broken. The pain was still fresh. But one thing had begun. A small, real change. Days turned into weeks. The protests had slowed, but the conversation didn't stop. People were still asking hard questions. News channels still discussed the video, and both Mike and Angela were still carrying the weight of that one moment. Angela receives an invitation one morning. Angela found a letter on her desk. It was handwritten. "Judge Angela, I know I don't deserve your time, but if you're willing, I'd like to speak to you face to face, not as a cop, just as a man who made a mistake. Mike." Angela stared at the letter for a long time. She wasn't angry. Not anymore. But she wasn't sure if she was ready. Then she remembered her father's words. "Real strength is not in punishment. It's in patience." She folded the letter and whispered, "It's time." The meeting. They met at a small library, a quiet place, away from cameras and noise. Mike stood when she walked in. He looked different. No uniform, no badge. Just a simple shirt, tired eyes, and a heavy heart. Angela sat down across from him. For a few moments, no one spoke. Then Mike broke the silence. "Thank you for coming." Angela nodded. "Why did you want to meet?" Mike looked down at his hands. "Because I need to say things I couldn't say before. Because the world saw what I did, but not who I became after." The conversation begins. Mike took a deep breath. "When I arrested you, I wasn't thinking. I was just reacting. You were calm. You were respectful. But I still saw you as a threat," Angela asked softly. "And why do you think that happened?" Mike looked ashamed. "Because of fear. Because of how I was trained. Because of bias I didn't even know I had." He looked into her eyes. "But that's not an excuse. It's a truth. A hard one. And I want to change it." Angela speaks. Her truth. Angela leaned forward. "You know what hurt me the most?" Mike shook his head. "It wasn't the handcuffs. It wasn't the way people stared. It was the silence. You didn't ask me anything. You just assumed." She paused. That moment reminded me of my father. He was taken like that. No questions. Just judgment, Mike whispered. "I'm sorry." Angela nodded. "I know, but apology is only the first step. Change comes after that." "Questions that matter," Angela asked. "Why did you become a cop?" Mike replied. to protect, to do good. But somewhere, I started protecting fear instead of people. Angela nodded, slowly. Fear is powerful, but truth is more powerful. And truth is, you weren't protecting anyone that day. You were protecting your assumptions. Mike looked down. Then Angela asked one more question. Do you believe change is possible? Mike thought for a moment, then said, I didn't, but now I do. Because you gave me a second chance, even when I didn't deserve it. The turning point, Angela stood up. Mike stood too. She said, I'm not here to forgive you. Not yet. That's not what this meeting is about. Mike looked surprised. Angela continued, This is about facing the truth. And you did that. That matters more than quick forgiveness. She reached out and shook his hand. But now, the real work begins. Not for me. For you. Mike nodded. I understand. Angela's journal. That night. Today, I looked into the eyes of a man who once saw me as a threat. Today, I saw regret. I saw growth. The truth is hard, but it is also healing. If we listen to each other, maybe the cycle can break. Back in the city outside, the world was still moving. People still judged. Systems were still unfair. But something small had changed. Two people had spoken the truth. And that truth had started a fire. Not one that burned everything, but one that could light the way forward. The city was divided. Some people said Officer Mike should never wear the uniform again. Others believed he was trying to change and deserved one more chance. But one thing was clear. Everyone was watching. Police Department's Announcement A. Press conference was held. Cameras, journalists, angry faces. The chief of police stepped forward. Officer Mike has completed his suspension. We have reviewed his case. Now we are offering him two choices. People leaned forward to listen. Option 1. Resign from the force and walk away. Option 2. Publicly apologize, go through full racial bias training, and work in the community under supervision for 1 year. Gasps filled the room. No one had expected that. Mike's decision. The next day, Mike stood in front of a crowd. No uniform, no script, just a microphone. Judge Angela watched from the side, silent, observing. Mike looked around and began. I am not proud of what I did. I judged a woman before I asked her name. I assumed things based on her skin, color. That's the truth. He paused. But truth alone is not enough. So today I choose option 2. People murmured. Some were angry. Some clapped. Mike continued. I want to learn. I want to serve the community I once hurt, not from power, but from humility. He stepped down. No applause, no cheers, just silence. But sometimes, silence means people are thinking. The program. Begins Mike's journey was not easy. He attended training classes on racial awareness. He sat in rooms with people who had suffered and just listened. He cleaned graffiti from community walls. He served food at shelters. He walked children home from school. At first, many people avoided him. Some insulted him. Others refused to speak. But Mike didn't stop. Every day, he showed up, quiet, honest, steady. Angela watches from a far judge. Angela kept her distance. She didn't interfere. But she kept an eye on his journey. Her assistant asked one day, Do you think he's really changing? Angela replied, Change is not what you say. It's what you do, when no one is watching. Flashback. Angela's mentor. Angela remembered a lesson from her first year as a judge. Her mentor once told her, Mercy isn't softness. Mercy is strength, but it must be earned, not gifted. That memory stayed with her as she watched Mike walk the hard road. The moment of truth. After months of service, Mike was invited to speak at a youth program. He stood in front of teenage boys and girls, mostly black and brown kids. They stared at him with cold eyes. Mike didn't try to win them over. He just spoke the truth. I was the kind of cop who would have judged you. I did judge you. But now, I see how wrong I was. And I'm not asking for your trust. I'm asking for a chance to be better. One boy asked, "Why should we believe you?" Mike paused. "You shouldn't. Not yet. But I'll be here tomorrow. And the next day. You can decide after that." Angela's final visit one evening, as the sun was setting, Angela visited the same youth center. She saw Mike helping a young girl with her homework. He didn't see her. He was focused, kind, gentle. Angela smiled. Not big, not dramatic, just a quiet smile of recognition. She walked away without saying a word. But in her heart, she said, maybe this is what justice looks like. After the pain. Her journal entry. That night, punishment alone changes nothing. True justice is when a heart breaks and chooses to rebuild itself the right way. Redemption is not a gift. It's a mountain, and some people are finally climbing it. Mike's journey wasn't over. The road was still hard. But this time, he was walking with his eyes open, and his heart, too. 1 year had passed. Seasons changed. Protests faded. But the memory of that arrest still lived in the hearts of many. For some, it was just a video. For others, it was their own story. For two people, Judge Angela and Mike, it was a turning point. The final report. The police department released a report. Officer Mike completed his full program. He passed advanced training, served over 1,000 hours in the community, and helped build new trust between police and citizens. The chief added, "We are not praising him for his mistake. We are recognizing his effort to rise from it." Angela receives an award invitation. Angela was invited to speak at a Justice and Unity event. A large hall, hundreds of people, big stage. Before going, she received an unexpected message. "I'll be there, not to be honored, just to listen." Mike. Angela read it twice, then closed her eyes and smiled softly. The speech on the stage. Angela stood tall and calm. She began, "A year ago, I was handcuffed for a crime I didn't commit. Not because of evidence, but because of assumption." The audience listened silently. But that day was not the end of my story. It was the start of a harder, deeper journey. She paused. Justice is not just punishment. It's also healing. It's facing pain and choosing to rise from it together. People clapped. Some stood, but Angela wasn't finished. There's someone here tonight who made a mistake. But instead of hiding, he stood up. He learned. He served. He grew. She looked at Mike, sitting quietly in the back. To Officer Mike, "You hurt me once, but you taught me something later. Change is possible, but it starts inside." The audience turned. Mike stood slowly. Everyone clapped. Angela nodded toward him. A small moment, but full of meaning. A private conversation. Later, Angela and Mike stood outside under the night sky. The city lights glowed behind them. Mike said, "I never thought I'd come this far." Angela replied, "You didn't come far. You came honest." He looked at her. "Do you forgive me?" Angela was quiet, then said, "I forgive the man you are today, not because you asked, but because you earned it." Mike's eyes filled with emotion. Angela added, "Just keep walking forward. Keep doing the work. That's the best way to honor the people you once hurt." A new mission. Months later, Mike began speaking at police academies, not to teach how to arrest, but to teach how to listen, how to question bias, how to serve with heart, not just a badge. Angela launched a program for young law students, especially from poor communities. She wanted them to know, your voice matters. Your place is in the courtroom, not the back seat of a police car. Final scene 1, sunny afternoon, Angela was walking past a school. She saw Mike playing basketball with local kids. He wasn't wearing his badge. He was just present. She smiled from a distance and kept walking. No words, no need. Some stories don't end with noise, they end with peace. Final journal entry. I didn't change the system, not yet, but I changed one man's story, and maybe he'll change another. And maybe one day, the system will change too.